Hello, I'm going to do another tutorial about a question that came up on the support and discussion boards for Blender Game Engine. So it's about having a camera not rotate too far by using object properties. And you could do this with Python or just with logic bricks. First I'm going to do it just with logic bricks. And then I will do it using Python. I hate laptop keyboards. This is what I'm using right now. So, view camera. Alright. So this is the camera. It's going to rotate. But it's not going to rotate too far. So it might, I don't know, we'll see. So I'm going to call this, I guess I could call it Z rotation, because that's what it is. No, I'm just going to do rotate XX. I'm just going to have it rotate this way along its local x-axis. So I'll call this ROT for rotation. It's going to be an integer. And that's not going to interact with the rotation, it's just going to ensure that it doesn't go too far. So keyboard up and keyboard down. And then this is motion, it's going to rotate it. Locally along its x by, I don't know, 0.01. Let's just see that work. Oh, that's motion. My bad. 0.01. That's teeny. Let's do 0.1. That's good. So, I'm gonna let it rotate down also. Was that what I wanted up to be? Yeah, I think so. Up is positive Z rotation, down is going to be negative, the opposite. Up, down, up, down. Okay? You'll notice that it can rotate down too far. So for this I'm going to say that I want the cube to always be in the camera. That's how I will define too far. Now to keep track of how far we've rotated, I'm going to use that property, ROT. I'm going to say that positive rotation adds to the property. So that's going to add 1 to it. And I should really be naming all these things, but for this tutorial, I will not do so. This subtracts 1 from it. I guess I could show you that it's working. Make this a game. Show frame rate and profile. Or no, that's not what I wanted. Show debug properties. Because I clicked on this, it's going to show up. See? And it goes positive and it goes negative. So the max is going to be around 200, I guess, is the max. And let's set it to 190 just so there's a little bit of the cube that we can see. So it will only rotate if this property is less than or equal to 190. Property rotate, This is not what I thought it would be. I haven't used logic bricks in a while. So it's only going to go up if it doesn't equal 190. So not equal, invert says not, kind of, to 190. So we can rotate, but only if its rotation is not equal to 190. One issue with this is that, let's say we set this to 2, you might skip over 190 and go to 191 and it would say, oh, that's fine, and 192 is fine. 190 is the only time that it stops. But in this case it will work, so it stops there. We want it to stop on the other side too, so you can't rotate down too far. So that's about negative 240. Rotate is equal to negative 240. 240. So it won't happen if it's at 240. Where's home on this thing? I hate these. Bad keyboard. Okay, up. It stops at 190. Once it's at 190, it doesn't trigger. And the same thing is true below. Once it gets to 240, this thing is giving a negative, even though this is giving a positive. So we have negative and positive, or to throw a little bit of computer science, we have false and true equals false. So nothing connected here fires. Okay, that was the easy way to do it. I'm going to save this to my desktop. Logic bricks example. Now, that's fine. There's some appeal to doing it in Python. You can easily put it in a new game and it works just as well. If you're using version control, you can see changes to it. You can provide documentation, make it clearer. At least for me, I have no idea what's going on here when I first look at this, and then I say, oh, okay, I kind of get it. With Python, I could look at it and understand it. I'm not going to use this text editor. I'm going to use Sublime Text because it's better. So let's see. Def. Alright, there are two ways to do this, and one is going to use sensors, and the other is using one sensor that checks the keyboard. So the first way I'm going to do it uses sensors that sense keyboard clicks. So I guess I'll call a method def rotate, defining a method called rotate, and the controller that called it is passed in. I'm going to save this to my desktop too. It's important that it's in the same directory as my blend file. So I'll call this camera because it has to do with the camera. Save. It's a Python file. Looks good. So cut all this stuff out. Did not actually want to do that. Cut out a large amount of this stuff. And I'm gonna make another state, and this state is gonna show you how to do it using Python. So the module is called camera.rotate. So the module is camera, rotate is the method. You can use these same sensors, but not the property ones. and I don't have to add any actuators because it's all going to happen in Python code. So now I have to name these. This is going to be up key. This is going to be down key. Down key equals cont.sensors down key dot positive. Up key. Never write something twice. Up. If down key. So if the key was the key pressed was the down key, so we got the sensor from this one, then you should do something. Otherwise, if you got it from up key, you should do something. But there's one thing I want to check before that, and that's if both keys are pressed, you should do nothing. If down key and up key, return. Return means stop doing what you're doing, go back. And it returns something to the caller, so something. So if something called this method, like if up here I said rotate with cont equals my controller, then this would return whatever the return statement said, and if there was nothing returned, it would be none. So here I could say a equals, and if I returned hello, a would be hello. But here I just want to leave this method. I want to stop it from happening. So I'm not going to return anything. So if the down key is pressed, own equals cont.owner. So this is a controller, and it passes it into the method. So into rotate is passed in this controller. I'm going to call it my controller. And then the owner of the controller is the object that has it, in this case the camera. So own is going to be this camera. And I'm going to do things with that camera, such as own the camera. I might want to rename it something besides own. But for now I'm just going to call it own. Own.world orientation plus equals from mathUtil, not mathUtil, util import vector. So basically, rotation happens in vectors. And if you don't know what a vector is, it is, in this case it's a three-dimensional vector. It's x, y, and z. And each of those has a float. So I'm going to add to the orientation, which is whatever it is. You can look at it here. It's something like this, kind of. Alright, let's just show this. Print own.world orientation. Here I have to stick something, or else it's not proper code. So pass just means do nothing. It means you'll write this later. Now let's look in our console. No module mathUtil. I'm going to check one of my other codes that uses mathUtil. My other Python programs. Utils, okay. It goes there. Let's try again. So it's a matrix. This is becoming a little bit complicated. There are matrices and there are vectors. They're important to physics, they're important to chemistry, biology, but I'm not going to get into them right now. All I'm going to say is we want to rotate this object's local y by an amount. And that amount is going to be a vector. So the vector is 0.0. We're not rotating so this is local rotation. So it has to be local rotation, not world rotation. So if I rotate the y here, that's world rotation. If I rotate the local y, that's different. And we don't want to rotate it in the x, we want to rotate it in the y by, let's say, 0.1. We're just going to try that out. And no rotation needs to happen in the z. Now let's see what happens. Wow, that went really quickly. Am I setting it equal to it? No, I'm multiplying it by it. Maybe I do need to have ones here. Own.local orientation, multiplying by this vector. I don't think that I've worked with rotation in any of my scripts before. But yeah, it becomes a little bit tricky. There's only one that I can think of in here. And this was really messy. Okay, here it is. Adjustments to the orientation. So here I'm rotating the z by negative 45 degrees. So I'm going to take that, and I need to import matrix from mathutils. Matrix. A rotation matrix. Let's say it's, so if it's going down, rotate yy, no, xx. Local x going down is going to be negative. Let's say it's negative 1 degree. 3-dimensional and x. So see if this works. So nothing happened. Radians is not defined, right? From math import radians. Yep, so it rotates. It's a little bit too fast for us. Let's decimate it. That's pretty slow. I think that's fine. Doesn't need to be perfect. Now something similar happens with the up key, but positive. Up, down, up, down. That's great. So we ended up not needing to use vector. And yeah, I'm a little bit confused by all the rotation too. In particular, these are radians, not degrees. And a radian is something different than a degree, and it doesn't really matter for this tutorial what that is. If you know it, you know it. So I could now set a property. I could do own rot plus equals 0.1 up here, own I guess I'm just going to give it the property in here. Oh, it already has it. That's great. 1, 1. So if it's going down, subtracting. And I could set some conditional like only rotate down if the down key is pressed, and own rotate, I don't know, is greater than lower bound. Let's set a constant up here just to make it clear what this number is, because if you see this number, it wouldn't be clear otherwise. Like, oh, 240, obviously. So this is one way to do it. And I don't think this is the way that I want to do it. I think there's a better way. I could test the orientation. And that's probably what I'd do. I think. Yeah. Let's see how we do that. So, get rid of this. But that would work. You'd have to fiddle with the values of upper limit and lower limit, but it would work. There's one more thing that I want to do, and that's we should be able to make the Python code do exactly what this did, and it's rotating by 0.1 degree. And this is rotating by negative 0.1 radians. And that's different. And I think math has degree, or degrees. Let's test that out actually. Import math, print directory of math. So that basically tells me everything that this math module can do. Play up is triggered, gives this result. So degrees are in here. Degrees. How many degrees? Well, in here it was 0.1. So we want to make it 0.1 here too. Degrees. Up, down. Now this isn't working. Let's see why. Global name math is not defined. Oh, right. I cut out the math import, so I can't have that printing statement. Go back here. That goes very, very quickly. I'm not sure why it goes so quickly. I want to see what this is. Print that. It's probably a matrix, I guess. Huh, this is just a number. And a really arbitrary number. Bizarre. I guess you gotta go with what works. So we're back to using radians. I'm still curious about degrees and radians and how they work in this math module, but I do not need to know for this tutorial. Lower bound is not defined. Yeah, I need to take that out. So, it is nice to be able to do this. And we can set the max number of degrees down and up we want to rotate, because for whatever reason it seems like these radians actually just work as degrees. So let's set max rotation down and max rotation up. And these are going to be in degrees. So how many degrees camera can rotate up or down? And this is the real appeal of using Python, is that here you can set something like this, and in here it wouldn't be clear what these numbers mean. Like, what does 190 mean? And here you can document it. So let's say I want it to rotate down by rotate XX, rotate down by negative 16 degrees. So rotate down 16 degrees and rotate up 12 degrees. Now, there's going to be another conditional in here. If own rotation it only rotates down if it hasn't already reached this limit. So if this is, so this is going to end up being negative. So I want the negative of that negative, because rotation down, it's going to be like 3 degrees down yields rotation, own rotation as negative 3. So we want it to be positive, and it has to be less than the max rotation down. And this should work, I think. Let's test it out. So it reaches the limit really quickly, and you'll notice that here, this is 0.1 degree, it's not 1 degree. So we could subtract 0.1, I guess. That's the best way to do it here. We could also just accept that this is going to be tenths of degrees, but I think this is the better option. I'm not sure if we have to change what property type it is. I don't think we do. I guess we do. From integer to float. Going down and stopping. And going up. And there's no stop on that end. Something similar happens here. We don't have to use the negative. It only rotates if it hasn't reached this max here. and it adds 0.1. Another way to do this would have been how many degrees camera can rotate, instead how many tens of degrees, and kept these as integers, which has its appeal. Yeah, but I think this is what we want to do for now. At least this is what we've done. Ta-da! So we could have found a complicated solution using orientation conditionals on the orientation of the camera, and it seems like that's not what we wanted to do. So this is one solution, and you can stop watching here if you like this solution, and I think I'm going to try to get the other solution, which uses conditionals using orientation. Or maybe not, because it really doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show one more thing, and that's instead of using sensors, we're going to use what key was pressed, not through a sensor. Just so you can see how to do that. Before we do that, we should figure out why we want to do that. It makes it easy to copy this code from this project to another one, and I can't really think of any other reasons in this situation. But let's say your game allows the user to change what key does what thing. Then we could get that key and test it. Whereas here, down key is always down key. In the code, instead of testing if down key was pressed, we could test if a given key was pressed. Like let's say they set it so that A key does it, or B key does it. It's hard to do that with logic bricks. It's easy to do that with Python. We're going to keep this count because it's used to get the owner, but we're not going to use these sensors. Instead, let me look at past code that I've made. Keyboard. It is so helpful to be able to look at past code and grab it. There were a couple things I had to import from Blender Game Import Events also. From BGE Import Events. An event is something like a key being pressed or a key being released or anything like that. And I don't think I have to get anything else. So, keyboard is the keyboard that the user is using. Even if there are two keyboards hooked up, I think it's just any keyboard input. Even if they have like they don't have a keyboard and they're using their mouse to press some other program that has a keyboard, that's considered the input. So this is whatever input is. Now, up key is the active key is the keyboard event up key being pressed. So if that is active, if it's happening right now, then up key is positive. Because I'm testing if the keyboard has an event going on that is the event up key being pressed. If that is equal to the input. So I want to try to explain this once more. So this is testing two things to see if they're equal. If the input, like the active input, is the same as the keyboard event keyboard events is a list, or actually it might be a dictionary. Let's see. Print keyboard events. And I think we're gonna, yeah, I think it's a dictionary, and we get the entry with the key that is events up key. Let's see. So I'm pressing down key right now. Logic is not defined. Oh, okay. There we go. Once more. Whoop! You'll notice that it's working. Oh man. So I was pressing the... Oh my god, I don't know what this means. Oh, I do. So these are all the different inputs. And one of them is linked to my down key. And it's going to be the one that has a 1. And it's in here somewhere. I am not going to search through for it. But I will say, if I press play, and I press down, and I mash on my keyboard, then there's a whole bunch of input. And I'm expecting to see more 1s than this. I notice that it starts at 12, and it has everything up to 187. So I'm guessing that this is going to be a number, and that number is paired to, I think this 0 is a bool. Or no, it isn't. But it, Let's see if it always started at 12. Anyways, this is a dictionary. The numbers before these colons are the keys. I'm pretty confused by what I'm seeing right now. I expected to see some 1s, or for those 0s to be true or false. But anyways, I guess you don't need to know what that means. So this works, you can use this, but I'm going to search to find the truth about what's going on. Okay, I'm pressing down key. Okay, so 146 is the key. I was right about that. So it's looking up 146. But why is it 0? Why are they all 0? Let's print this at the same time as printing keyboard events. Dot events. And then let's press the up key to trigger this. Up key, up key, up key, up key. I'm gonna go over here. Gonna look through. So 146 was being pressed. Or no, it's not that it was being pressed. I just checked what the value of events.upkey was. And for some reason it's 146. And in here, oh, 146 has 2. Oh, right, okay, I've read something about this before. So it's either just been pressed, or it's just been released, or it's held. I think if it's released, so there's input is active, that means it's being pressed, and that's 1, I think. Or no, it's 2. And then there's a couple more. This is getting off topic. I don't really feel like doing this. Anyways, it's either 0, which means it's not on, the key is not being pressed. It's 2, which apparently means that the input is active, or I think it's 1, which means it's just been pressed. Let's look at the first one here. The first time it was triggered, it should have the key, or it should have the value of whatever just pressed means. 146 is 1. Yeah, so when it's just pressed, it gives the key code 1. And this thing is just 2. And I could just write 2 here, but you wouldn't know what I was talking about. Here, if I'm saying it is the input is active, you understand what's going on. Yeah, so that was cool. This is how you use keyboards instead of sensors. Now let's say the user can change what key does this. Key equals, then it could be anything. Key. Which is great. So this could check for A key or B key or whatever the user has chosen. And this would be stored somewhere. So that's that. If you have any questions, comments below. I'm glad this worked as well as it did. This was fun. The joy of debugging. And less importantly, it worked. I think my up key and down key are switched, and I want them to be the other way around. But that's minor. Thanks for watching. Stop.